Everybody, welcome again to the Filter That podcast. We just released one like a couple of weeks ago with Tim Jones, our service director. But today I get to talk with Kyle Billy. And as I talked with Kyle about planning out a discussion around our vent mapping, he said, you should invite somebody from the sales team because they would have a really good perspective on what they could bring in. And I said, well, who should we bring on? He said, well, I think your brother Chris. And I said, really? And he's like, yeah, of course. And I give my brother a hard time all the time. He gives me a hard time, has been since birth, basically. It is pretty neat to do this today. So, gentlemen, welcome to the show, and thanks for joining.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
I got to start with Kyle. You got to give us a little bit of an introduction on who you are, what you do. We'll shift it over to Chris, and then we'll sort of kickstart a discussion around vent mapping and actually explain what that is exactly, so people listening know what it's all about and how to apply it. So hey, Kyle.
All right. Yeah. So my name's Kyle Billy. I am a vent mapping / applications engineer here at RoboVent. I started a little over 5 years ago as just a vent mapping engineer, gone through a bunch of training and classes through Michigan Industrial Ventilation Conference, North Carolina Industrial Ventilation Conference, and eventually that expertise lended its way to getting into the applications department. So now essentially what I do is anytime a solutions director has any questions about a project that they're trying to quote, sell, close, anything of that nature, they can come to the applications team, myself and a couple others, and ask the questions if they don't know the answer. We develop the solution for them, and then eventually, if they need a computational fluid dynamic study completed to help show the results prior to the customer writing a check for us, that's where I come in and do the quote unquote vent mapping for the solutions directors.
Why was there a quote unquote and you didn't even do air quotes there or anything? Why that around vent mapping?
Yeah, it's a I guess a proprietary term. So if you say vent mapping engineer, no one really understands what that is. So vent mapping is all encompassing in RoboVent. So it could mean just a site visit to discuss with the customer solutions and get them some, preliminary drawings. It could be the full package of a site visit, data collection, computational fluid dynamics or CFD study, report writing, and then from there it would move into, bid drawings, things like that. So.
Thank you for that. I appreciate you sharing a little bit about vent mapping and what it is and what it isn't. Let's introduce Chris here for a second. Why exactly are you here today?
I work in Columbus, sometimes alongside Kyle, since we're both here in the area. And I think that we've worked on quite a few projects together, and I feel like we've developed a good relationship. I know when to come to Kyle when I don't have the answers, which may seem like a lot of times, but I don't claim to know something that I don't. So I rely heavily on his expertise when I go into facility, and there are many times where I do have the answers, and many times where I don't. So a lot of times those customers, they're checking our website beforehand before I even come on site, and a lot of those customers, they bring up the vent mapping process that we can provide, and those applications have to be the right ones for Kyle and his team, and those simulations that he may run in order to work properly for them. But again, those customers have an idea of kind of what it is before I even get in there. And, I'll go back and check in with Kyle and say, hey, do you think this is the right application? Because not every application is going to be the right one. and I lean heavily on him. And he does great work. Puts in a lot of time, a lot of hours, helping the sales team out and helping us, provide proper solutions for our customers, and make sure that they want to see a kind of a guaranteed solution, and he's able to help with that tremendously.
Tell everybody listening what exactly it is that you do here, Chris. So why do you actually interact with Kyle so much? What is it that you do here? Exactly.
Well, yeah.
I have people skills.
Exactly. Really, we're the feet on the ground. Whether it comes from something that BD has set up or returning customers, we do have a lot of returning customers because they are happy with RoboVent and what we provide. But I really go in and more or less, I'm the ear, I'm the listening aspect for the customer. I go in, look at what's going on in the facility, look at their processes. Many times we can size things appropriately. We know the solution that's going to help them achieve the goals that they want to see, whether it's just cleaning up the air within the facility or protecting their employees. That's what we're there for. Turning around proposals in a timely manner, but we do have ones where they're larger projects. Maybe they want to see those results. They want to see those what they're actually getting when it comes to that, and that's where we bring in Kyle and his team to really help show them what it is we're going to be helping them with.
Yeah, wouldn't it be great to be able to buy so many products and services in our real lives and have that sort of performance guarantee? Like, this is going to cost you this much in energy this year. We've done the study. Here's what's going to happen. But that doesn't really happen. So it's truly unique in the sense of just what general companies do and offer, but even more specifically within our field. So we're throwing around the term vent mapping. A lot of folks just refer to that internally as our engineering department, right? And our applications and engineering teams collectively, and the systems, the people, the process. But Kyle, since you are head vent mapping guy, I think it's appropriate for you to describe what it is and what it isn't. Like, because Chris mentioned something earlier there where he said, well, customers, tend to have a pretty good understanding of what it is, and there's probably some misperceptions out there. Maybe somebody in marketing described it wrong, or maybe we need to update something, or maybe that it is all those things. It's a little bit nebulous perhaps, but maybe you can set the record right here today of what it is and what it isn't.
All right. So the vent mapping term, as I said earlier, is all encompassing kind of in our company. So if you need questions answered from the sales team or the solutions directors, that can go to the applications department. But the actual way that vent mapping was set up was a group of people who were doing the CFD study, writing reports, and performing the engineering for the 100% guarantee on our solutions. We started mainly trying to do everything. We found out very quickly that oil mist is one thing that we cannot do with our CFD capabilities. It's too hard to find the generation rate from the oil mist. A lot of it gets recycled, so the people don't quite comprehend what they're using on a daily basis. And the CFD software doesn't actually mix a moisture and a gas very easily. So oil mist CFD simulations, that's something that we can't do effectively. Everything else is pretty much on the table. Weld fume is one that we've developed with other companies that help us develop our what we call cut plots. We show graphs essentially of where the particulate's going to be concentrating in a facility, in a hood, in a backdraft, anything that we decide to do the simulation on. We can do heat load studies using this, so we can assign a heat generation rate from a press or an oven, things of that nature, to show what the temperature inside the building is going to do if you potentially shut off one of those processes or add air conditioning or just general airflow. Grinding, dust, things like that, we can measure using a dust track meter from TSI that will allow us to tell how much particulate is actually in the air in that general area, and we can match our simulation to those real world analytics. Outside of that, we can do regular just airflow, velocity, static pressure readings, and ductwork if we need to. We've done in the past, we had some really odd shaped return air on a collector that we had. So we needed to know what the static pressure loss would be from the return air. And we were able to run that simulation with the actual ductwork design, with the actual airflow we were getting out of the collector, and tell what the static pressure loss would be at the collector, at this turn, at the exhaust, whatever we needed. So those are some of the capabilities of the CFD software and the vent mapping department.
Well, it sounds like there's a market opportunity for the software developers to go ahead and figure out that formula and develop that algorithm so that you can input it into the simulations. And is what we do with at least weld fume and other particulate type, is that proprietary to RoboVent? Anybody can buy the software, but I feel like it's how you apply it and the sort of filters and parameters you're telling the software how to run and operate with.
I believe that we have worked with what was 3D Vision in the past, or computer-aided technology to develop the weld fume parameters. So that would be proprietary to RoboVent. The software, like you said, itself is not proprietary. Anyone can purchase the software we use and, the add-ons that we have and do that. But putting in the parameters that we have for the weld fume and the particulates that we do have, that's all proprietary to us right now.
So it's really the playbook, right? It's like anybody can buy the field and the equipment, but not everybody has your playbook. And then on top of that, we got the players. We got the A players. And I gave Chris a quick hard time earlier, but I'm in part of the reason he's actually working for us right now. I helped recruit him to the organization. Told the sales director at that particular moment, saying, hey, of course I'm biased, but give him an opportunity. And I think eventually, he might be our top seller. So, just take that for what it's worth. Chris did it all on his own. Is now our Northeast Solutions Director and covers a pretty massive territory. Gets a lot of high customer remarks, and keep doing it, brother. Set the pace. You're doing a great job for us. So back to Kyle, and it being proprietary, knowing that Chris and all of our other regional solutions directors are out in the field all the time. What's something that maybe you wish our customers, or I guess prospective customers at that particular point, would know or maybe take advantage of more? Where it's like maybe you wish they would have done some of this stuff before you had to get there, because it's not like it's, I don't think that you're free necessarily just to go travel across the country and do super advanced simulations for anybody. So what are some things that they could be doing so that when you get that call or Chris makes that visit, they're more well prepared for your visit?
Yeah, so that's a good question. Anytime that we partake in the vent mapping kind of engagement, it's more of a partnership between RoboVent and the customer. So we need their buy-in. Too many times in the past, we've had a customer that just says, here, do the vent mapping, you collect all the data, you get this, and that's it. And we've seen very unsatisfactory results from that, because it's very hard to get the customer to buy into it. When the customer buys into the process and they understand what we're going to do, whether that's a kickoff meeting with the customer to tell them exactly what the vent mapping process is going to look like, it works so much better. For them, what we need from them is we need access to the building, access to lifts, access to the roof sometimes, but we're also going to ask for things like CAD drawings of the facility, a weld wire usage in some given amount of time, whether that's an hour, a week, a shift, a year. We need to know how much weld wire or particulate they're going to be generating. And then from there, it's really on me to go out to the site, collect the remaining airflow data, whether that's makeup air, air conditioning, exhaust fans, wall fans, personnel fans, current filtration systems. Any of that data is stuff that I will collect typically. And that way we get the actual data that we need to put into the simulation. Sometimes we get customers that say they know what their filtration units are doing, but as we know in this industry, once the static pressure increases, a lot of these filtration units, the airflow decreases. So that affects the simulation. So once I get on site, that's kind of, we typically have a meeting with the customer and introduce myself face to face, kind of explain the vent mapping process again. And then we just need to have their buy-in and help me through the process of the site visit. From there, once I get back, the simulations start. We start having that sometimes weekly dialogue with the customer. And once we present the proposal, they get a report with that gives my recommendations that are not always geared towards RoboVent. Sometimes there's a process that we just don't feel comfortable doing a filter unit on. So there are instances in my reports where I have to just give the customer the best option possible. And that's when the proposal comes in, they get the proposal, the quote, the report, and we discuss it with the solutions director and the customer together. And really I think it's all about building that relationship between RoboVent and the customer. So having them buy into the process up front and then explaining to them what's going to happen and building their trust in this process as we go through it. So that way they know if we are recommending, however many cartridges in a collector, they know that that's the right option for them.
So it might not even necessarily be what they need to be doing ahead of time before you get there on site or various visits, but to just be generally collaborative in the process and be engaged in the process, because I guess the more that they're engaged, the more detail that we're able to pull out of their process, et cetera, et cetera. I mean, you don't show up in any kind of like superhero or scientist outfit or anything like that to sales visits, do you? Okay. I was just picturing that in my head where like Kyle comes in and is like, I know what to do. There's too much airflow there. Let's test it. Let's test it with my TSI. Yeah, and people are they substantially underwhelmed where they're like, oh, I thought Chris really built you up here, and you walk in, you're like, no, it's just, this is regular, this is just what I do. So
sometimes I do have customers that seem like they're very underwhelmed to meet me, but maybe that's a more of me problem. So
you can hear the term thrown around the organization. I mean, you've been a part of some really massive projects and some really meticulous studies, within our vent mapping and engineering teams. So that's why I say that. But you keep mentioning welding. Are we only doing this for welding operations? I know everybody knows this as welding, but guess what? We can bust any type of dust, any type of particulate. It doesn't really matter what we're after. We obviously leverage airflow principles. We're doing everything according to the ACGIH manuals, everything that we learn, everything that we've developed, and it's just another type of dust, mist, or fume at the end of the day. So is it exclusive to welding, or can this be open to a lot of other processes and industry types?
Yeah, so it's open to almost all industries. The CFD itself, I would exclude oil mist, but our engineering group, the Ventmapping group, if they need a site visit for me to go out on site, take airflow readings, kind of get the information we need for their oil mist process too, we can do that. We can show them the airflow that they're going to need in their hood, their backdraft, whatever we design. We can show them the airflow they need. We just can't simulate the oil mist particulate in the air. So outside of that, everything's on the table. Weld fume, plasma cutting, grinding, heat load studies. Like I said, I just went to a customer and did a heat load study where we were looking at one part of their building was extremely hot. The other part was much cooler, probably a 10-degree difference from the northeast side to the southwest side. So going in
they
there,
need a Tempur-Pedic. Evens it out.
Going in there and taking all those readings they need, and kind of just showing them what we can do ahead of time with whether it's our collectors with the nice package, the air conditioning package on our collectors, whether it's just a regular air conditioning unit outside or just more fresh air from outside. So we can simulate that. We can show that. We can, like you said, we do everything based off the ACGIH manuals. So we can design as a team any solution. At the end of the day, dust is dust. So anything's on the table at this point. So
I'm gonna fact check that after the show. Make sure dust is dust. I'll see if it is dust.
I mean, transitive properties work out in that instance. So
I want to ask Chris some questions here, but I'm hearing you talk about the process, and it sounds like we need a separate episode completely about engineering services as it relates to oil mist, and because that is a slippery subject. They can be really nasty applications. I have personally been in some facilities where they were asking us to come take a look at the welding and metal, like some other operations over here, and not even the oil mist problem that was very apparent that you could smell as soon as you walked in. I mean, I'm not the industrial ventilation expert, but I've been into hundreds of plants, and you can tell some good air quality from some bad air quality. Anyway, I digress. So we'll go into an episode, and I'd love to have maybe you, Mike Meyer, and whoever our top solutions director is for oil mist applications by number or even like volume of projects. But Chris, I want to get your perspective here on when you're out in the field. Think about where you've been, where you going, where you been over the last month. What are some, projects that you've been called out for where you haven't used Kile or, some advanced engineering team? Because, you say like, well, I have all these resources, but our people are trained, I think, better than, dare I say, like every other company in this space. So I think you know your stuff pretty damn well. Darn well. Dang well.
Honestly, I was thinking about that. This morning, even yesterday, because again, I do rely heavily on Kyle and the engineering team because that's, what we do. It's nice to
what
have
we do,
that
like meaning like that's our mantra at RoboVent. Is that what you mean?
Well, yeah, the team concept. We're not just one person. We're not just an individual. Many times you're bouncing ideas off of even other solutions directors, or our inside sales reps. We're constantly bouncing ideas off of one another because if you think you can go about it alone, how do you know if you're wrong? or if there's a better way to do something. But
Right.
I'd probably
Well,
say
there's only one solutions director, but there's millions of particulates, so we need as much help as we can get busting all this dust.
Exactly. But it's probably, I'd say, Kyle, probably 1 out of every 10 that I go to, maybe even 12. Like I do feel like I'm in Kyle's ear a lot, but then I realize, well, there's 15 other ones that I never even contacted him about because we are trained well. We have we do go through constant training. We do, I'm sure every solutions director, whether in their truck or right by their desk, has that ACGIH manual that you lean on as well to, there's examples in there. There's, making sure you have the proper capture velocities or duct velocities for whatever process we're looking at, grinding, welding, sanding or shot blast, painting, whatever it may be. We have that knowledge and training at our fingertips. So it's probably, 5 to 10% of the time I'm actually reaching out to Kyle on applications. So
now hold on.
Like
Do you bring him in?
to that real quick. So
yeah, okay. Go ahead.
Anytime a solutions director comes to the applications team, we love helping them understand what we're doing to size the solution. So, especially with people who call me up directly and ask questions, I force them to pull out their industrial ventilation manual, the ACGIH manual, and I walk them through the process of sizing the solution. That way they get used to doing it themselves, and down the road they may have a very similar opportunity that they don't need to call me on because they remember going through this previously.
Yep.
Right, because many principles are the same, but sometimes maybe you see an application that might have a slight variable, so you kind of want to just make sure you're bouncing that idea off of, a good resource center. And it's like, hey, this is what I thought about it. What do you think? Well, yeah, you're actually down the right path. Now, I venture to think that Chris probably maybe invites you into 5 to 10% of those jobs, but he probably calls you for more than that just to make sure that he doesn't need you. He's like, now this is what I'm doing. This is what I'm thinking. So do you need to come in? Like, no, I don't need to be there. So you're good. You got this. You got this, Robin. You don't need to call Batman every time. You got this one.
Sometimes he'll call me and it'll just be, hey, I got this question and, this is what I'm thinking. And it's a reassurance of, yeah, that's correct. Let's go with that. And other times he'll call me and say, this is what I'm thinking. I'm like, nah, that's not going to work. So let's go through this and see what we need to do. So
I'm humble that way. I anybody that thinks they know it all, they don't know anything. So,
and there are times I should point out too, it's not just the solutions directors that get shut down by engineering. I've been on several calls with install that they shut us down because we can't install something the way I think we should. So it is, like Chris mentioned, a team effort, and we really have a lot of experience here with our engineering team, our install team, our solutions directors, everybody working together to come up with the correct solution for the applications.
What a great concept, and maybe we should bring it to market and just have like a one episode reality show to show all the different segments across RoboVent and how we cross collaborate to bring a solution to a customer. The pressure that it takes to reach that ACGIH guideline level and that OSHA regulatory level, but they came together.
Yeah, can I be on the call when you ask Dean to do that?
Yes. Hey, Dean, Dean actually came onto the show before you two guys, so shout out to my guy Dean. He tells it like it is, just like Tim, just like you guys, and that's part of the spirit here at RoboVent, because the egos can just get pushed aside and we can work towards the betterment of the customer, of course.
Dean and I have a very good working relationship, but there are times where we've got into arguments on calls with our engineering team, and it's his experience versus my experience, and that typically leads to the best solution because we're both pointing out things that the other person isn't thinking about. And, sometimes maybe it gets a little heated, but we always work together at the end.
Yeah, but if it gets heated, we can take care of that with ice, right? Or modifying the air in the room to just cool it down a little bit. I've got a question for you, Kyle, because I think at this point in the show, everybody's got a pretty darn good idea of what vent mapping is, what it's not. I mean, obviously, I don't need to make a call to action for people to call RoboVent or you guys. I mean, you make yourselves available. Our contact information's on the website in so many different ways. So if you don't know how to use a computer, I don't know. We're just going to have to help you some other way. But phones work too. The address is 37900 Mound Road, Sterling Heights, 48310. So maybe you can just drive there. And if you don't have a GPS, go to AAA, get a triptych. Somehow you'll be able to get to our facilities to talk with our people. But I really got to know if, Kyle, do you use our particulate monitors at home just to monitor stuff? Like, have you ever measured, I don't know, do you have dogs at the house or things that you just want to measure that are in the air? Maybe some cat dander, general dust.
I don't use the particulate monitors, but I have used airflow devices to make sure all my rooms are balanced and make sure that we're getting the right air conditioning and heating into all the rooms.
Excellent. Is this something you've done for Chris as well? Has he had that? Have you performed the balancing at his house?
I've offered. He's never taken me up on it.
Cool. Well, I think anybody that's maybe within a 45-mile radius of that device at any particular moment, I think should get some complimentary house visits to make sure all rooms are balanced.
I just want to say I'm not an HVAC person, so I just have to use my expertise in the in the air filtration industry to make sense of everything. So,
I mean, we get it. You're not a player. You just crush a lot. No, not in the house. Well, this episode has been a lot of fun. It's been, we didn't necessarily have some pre-planned games or anything like that, or I didn't have you guys, play any special games that we usually run. But having the banter back and forth from somebody in engineering, but also in solutions, going back and forth, discussing what vent mapping is and what it isn't, that's been good. So really thank you guys for coming onto the show, and hope to invite you back for that oil mist episode too, Kyle.
All right, thanks. I'll be there.